No, you don't have to craft hooks like Mr. Beast, but you do need to understand the anatomy of a good hook, and not just the one in the beginning. Yep, there's 2 in every single video. If you're losing viewers, we have a way to fix that. We're going to talk about that right now.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creator. How are you guys? It's great to see you here again for another Video Creators Podcast episode brought to you by vidIQ, like we do every single Monday. We're just hanging out, sharing more advanced growth tips and tactics, next level strategy, growing your business, helping you reach more people and change lives. I'm hanging out today with Sam and Blake, 2 of our YouTube strategists here on the team. How's it going, guys?
Pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Blake, I feel like this is your first time here on the podcast. Is that right?
It is. I've been behind the scenes for a lot of this, but now I'm making my debut appearance. Really excited.
The world's ready to see you now.
Blake is one of our YouTube strategists that works in consultations as well as helping to educate creators in our video lab space for quite a few months now. I feel like we need to know a little bit about you, though. Right, Sam?
Right. Yeah. So we're going to fire off some questions, kind of like what you guys did to me just a couple of months back. So the tables have turned.
Right. I'll brace myself for that.
Okay. So Blake, what geeks you out about YouTube strategy?
Well, I can tell you what doesn't geek me out. Analytics freak me out, but when you show me a title and thumbnail, I'm probably the most excited about those things. I'll look at titles and thumbnails all day long. You show me some numbers, I'll probably run away and cry a little bit. But I do dive into a little bit, but I do enjoy titles and thumbnails quite a bit.
Nice.
Yeah, I think he's kind of understating that a little bit. He is like super geeky about titles and thumbnails. I would probably say almost more than any single person on the team, right?
Probably, yeah. Well, I'd say the skills too in Photoshop, like Ingrid, I don't know if you know this, but Blake's like amazing when it comes to making thumbnails in Photoshop. I'm like,
I wouldn't say amazing. I'd say probably spectacular, but
Don't hold back. Don't hold back. All right. Well, then that makes me wonder now, because I did not know that. Give us a few things that we might not know about you.
Yeah, so not that I can do right now, but I do play guitar and did hurt my hand, so that kind of stops me from doing that. That was from longboarding, which I'm not great at. What else? Let's see. Oh, I went to school for animation. I actually studied 3D animation for a few years. I worked on a TV show called Sunny Day for about a week, and I quit because I hated it so much. Animation was great, but it was not like my passion. I was like, this is fun. I loved watching cartoons. That was kind of the thing, but I did not like it as a job. I lived in Australia for about 3 years as well too, so that was kind of fun.
Wow, those are like some big things.
I was going to say, basically, live a much cooler life than I do.
Definitely much cooler than mine too.
So for those of you listening, if titles and thumbnails do happen to freak you out, you've got the right guy right here to potentially jump into a free 15-minute discovery call just to talk through your channel, some of your goals, potentially just how we can come alongside you and help you with your channel, whether it's titles and thumbnails or really anything like that. You can talk with Blake, you can talk with me or some of the other strategists on the team. So like I said, it's just a 15-minute free discovery call. If that's something that sounds fun to you, go ahead and just visit videocreators.com/discovery call, and we'll see you there.
Keeping viewers from leaving your content, well, it's kind of an important thing. And we really want to dive deep into one part of video structure today, because it's not just about video structure. It actually plays into discoverability and a whole lot of other stuff. Today, we're going to dive deep into one component of video structure. And this is not something that we normally do, but it's a piece of the equation that is so important. And it's not just about video retention, although it greatly impacts video retention. It also has further implications when it comes to discoverability. So we want to kind of dig into that. And we're going to focus around a hook. Sometimes when we're working with creators, we see in content that hooks are completely missing. I just want to be clear. There are 2 hooks in every single video. We are going to dive into that right now. First, we're going to talk about examples of poorly constructed hooks, because I feel like this is something that can lead to abandonment and it cuts the legs right out of your content. Guys, I'm curious. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see when you're working with a creator?
For me, the biggest pet peeve that I have is the giving call to actions right off the bat. If it's, maybe it's like the best recipe, the best burger recipe ever. And then you click into the video and then it's kind of like, hey, everybody, we're going to talk about the best burger recipe ever. But first, go to my website and smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. And they just take 30 seconds or so. Everybody skips past that. You haven't really given me any value or anything yet. It's a pretty big pet peeve of mine. And I think you see that a lot with other creators. I think it's become kind of like a YouTube-ism. The creators see other creators doing it and then just kind of think that's the best way to structure your video. But yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
I feel like you said a couple things though in there, because you were talking about, first off, he mentioned 30 seconds and that is long, but I've also seen, I don't know about you, Blake, but I look at videos where the hook is literally a minute long.
Yeah, that's normal. I've seen it many, many times. It'd be like a minute, 30 seconds before the video even starts. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of time that I could have been getting value from your content that we've kind of now wasted. So.
And what does that retention graph look like when you have hooks that are a minute long?
Big hockey stick decline right there. Yeah.
Yep. So if this is resonating with you, listening to this, take note, because long hooks, they just lead to abandonment. But there's something else that you said, Sam, too, and you were talking about all the call to action, and you said skip past that. And yeah, a lot of people do skip. But I do feel like with the way that viewers are nowadays on YouTube, they bolt. They may not even stay. Would you say that's probably a true statement?
Yeah, I agree. And it's a little unfortunate. I'm a little sad that I think shorts and just kind of TikTok and the way that we're going, I think as a society, our attention span is just getting quicker and quicker. So even with that, like maybe couple of years ago, it wouldn't have been as much of a problem, and people might be more willing to just kind of sift through it and find kind of what they're looking for. But I agree. I think there's so much content out there now too, that if maybe you're looking for a particular type of video and it doesn't immediately kind of hit, or you feel like you're going to get what you came for, it's just, oh, okay, this is a dud. Let me find number 2, and the viewer's on their way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, I feel like for me, the one mistake that I see quite a bit is repeating the title and thumbnail in the hook itself. So like how to create a hamburger. So today I'm going to teach you how to create a hamburger. It's like, I know that, I'm here for that. What's more you can give me that's going to make me want to stick around and see what this hamburger is about, right? Like, oh, this is going to be the best thing you ever tasted. Or if you mess this up, you could poison somebody. I don't know. Probably not do that. But just saying that there's more tension in that than telling me what I already know I'm here for.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think for me too, something that was very common like a long time ago, and that's the thing, hooks have really gone through an evolution. They kind of evolved, I feel like 2 or 3 years ago, and then they've gone through this massive evolution even just in the last year. In old YouTube days, sounds like it was
YouTube.
Olden days.
Eons ago.
It was very common to have a lot of music at the beginning of a video, or have like branding. And that's something I do still see a lot of creators making a big mistake in, where they open up right with a branded spot. Well, you kind of really need to think about who you're creating the video for. Because if you're really crafting a discoverable video, if you've been listening to us for a while, you know you're crafting that for non-subscribers. They don't know you. So if you're meeting them with a branded message, even if it has your value proposition in it, I don't know you. So that's kind of a rough thing to come in straight off of a title and thumbnail from.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's not going to mean anything yet to a new audience. Another thought too is, and it can be kind of depressing sometimes to look in your retention graph. And for instance, let's say maybe you have a 10-minute video that you're really proud of, and you're hoping it's going to go really far and reach a lot of people. And maybe you've made some of these mistakes, and maybe it's a long hook, and you gave the call to actions, and there's this really big decline. And now a minute into your video, your audience, maybe there's 40-30% of people here. And so for the whole rest of the 9 minutes of your video, the whole meat of the content, it's like you've already lost 70% of the potential people who could have made it to the end to potentially engage with a call to action or subscribe or watch more of your videos or go buy the thing that you're selling. It can really defeat you right off the bat sometimes if it's not effective.
I so agree. And I feel like that's probably the biggest hurdle that creators have to overcome. So we've kind of talked about some of the big missteps, and those are just a handful. Let's talk a little bit about what is like the anatomy of a good hook. So what comes to mind when I say that? At the very beginning, when you think of a hook, what are some of the things that you want to think about?
You want to think about teasing the content, not telling everything that's about to happen, but teasing or kind of probing what to expect, or whatever that may be. There could be a secret on the way. There could be something big that you need to know, but how do I build that anticipation so that momentum keeps going?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think let's say you're pitching a solution I don't know. For example, maybe the title thumbnail is about how to earn enough money to break the 9-to-5 job. There's like this question in the title and thumbnail, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to know what the thing is. And then if the opening seconds, it's like, you need to invest your money. And then that's kind of it. And it's like, you gave the solution.
You told me the answer.
You showed your hand too quickly. Viewers might also kind of be like, oh, great. Okay. I don't really need to watch the rest of the video now. You kind of gave it all to me. So I agree. I think kind of not giving it all away, but kind of teasing at what you're about to get to can be really effective.
Yeah. I feel like people kind of misunderstand what a hook is. Okay. And a hook, and I have this, it's so funny because every time we talk about hooks, I have this like one image that comes to mind, and it's old Bugs Bunny Roadrunner type cartoons. If you two youngins even know what I'm talking about.
Not a clue. I'm 30 now. I am an old man.
So sad, just saying. So sad. So I'm kind of really always thinking about, the coyote in these situations, or the roadrunner. Maybe is that what it is? The roadrunner? Okay, I'm sounding like an idiot here. I got to go back. I got to go backwards.
First Marvel novel.
Oh my Lord! But you have this like big staff with a big hook on it, and you're putting it around somebody's neck, and you're literally yanking them into the content. That's always in my mind. And so when you have that kind of yank factor, that's the thing of where you drop somebody in off of a title and a thumbnail, right? You've already started your video right there. The hook is the very next line. It's the very next thing you say when you're coming off of that title. The hook, you want to, like Blake said earlier, building intrigue. That is what's going to get the viewer to buy in on your video. So when you're thinking about it, now let's look at some tactical ways around that. If you're building intrigue, where does that actually go? You're building tension. So at the end of your hook, where is that? Where's the biggest part of the tension in your hook? Is it at the very beginning when you drop them in off of the title and the thumbnail?
Oh, at the end of the hook.
It's at the end of the hook. right? Because you're building it. And that's
Yeah.
also a mistake that I see a lot of
Cliffhanger.
creators do. They put like the biggest explosive thing right at the very beginning, but a hook builds that intrigue.
Mhm.
So at the end, which is probably, how long would you say a good hook is nowadays? Because it's changed.
Probably like 15 seconds.
Sam's being generous.
I'm gonna say that's a little bit long for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
5 to 10?
I feel like 5 to 10. I think a lot of hooks nowadays are even shorter.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
It depends on the niche, I think. And I think it depends on your audience too. But if you're going over 15 seconds, you're definitely too long. 100% too long for a hook. And that's the thing. So what specifically makes up a hook?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think you touched on this, but I think it starts with the title and thumbnail. You know, I think especially the thumbnail, even visually, it can be kind of jarring if like you're showing the context visually in your thumbnail of something, like the cheeseburger, maybe the cheeseburger example. If the shot didn't really start with a cheeseburger or like this, you know, kind of the spatula and like pull you right in, probably would feel kind of weird if it was maybe you kind of like chilling on your couch talking about something maybe unrelated. Then it's going to be kind of like, this is not what I came for. You know, I think it starts with the title thumbnail. And then I think as soon as the video starts, you need to reinforce to the viewer that this is worth your time. You're going to get what you clicked for. And then as you kind of progress through to that kind of, you know, the peak intrigue, like you mentioned, we kind of end it there with like the, okay, I'm in, like it's going to be worth it for me. It's kind of the feeling ideally when you segue out of your hook and into kind of the meat of your content.
Totally. And I think I'm going to actually go backwards here, and I'm going to kind of remind you listening about the hook that I had in the very beginning of this episode. Because it was really more, I dropped you into a moment about that you didn't have to be crafting hooks like Mr. Beast, which is something that you don't really hear people say. So that's a little intriguing. But there's our magic word that we love, right, guys? But you do need to understand the anatomy of a good hook. So now I've kind of got you in a little bit. And then I led you into, but it's not just the one at the beginning. There's actually 2 in every video. Something you may not have heard before, so now there's even more intrigue. And then coming in with the biggest part of this, but if you're losing viewers, which hits you right where it hurts, that's an emotional thing, here's the payoff. We have a way to fix that. And we're going to talk about that right now. So that is really how you craft that for your video. And that was a very practical lesson, I hope. I hope for today. But we're not done. Because I have a question for you guys. Where else do you need a hook that has to be way shorter?
Shorts. Easy. A lot shorter. You have like a couple seconds at max to grab someone's attention because it's so easy to swipe through, right? Like you need to grab them almost immediately.
And I feel like, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like when you're really looking, when you look at shorts, the shorts that have all the views, they grab you right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And the shorts that don't.
Yeah, totally agree. It's nice too, because in the analytics, you can see now, like relatively recently, you can see the swipe rate, which is really, really helpful. So if you look in your analytics for your shorts, you can see like what percentage of people actually stayed and watched the short versus how many of them just swiped past it. And so that's actually a really good, I guess, kind of barometer to measure how quickly am I getting somebody into a short. You know, you might have a really effective one that went really far, that maybe 80% of people who it was surfaced to, it was shown to, actually stayed and watched it. And then maybe you have another one that didn't go quite as far, and maybe only, 30% of people viewed it, meaning 70% of people just swiped past it because maybe it took too long for you to get into your content.
Yeah. And what are some other practical things that you can offer the audience when it comes to like opening up a short? And this probably goes also for videos too. little bit.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I think with a short, it kind of, I know we don't have a lot of control over thumbnails yet. I'm hoping in the future we'll maybe have some more tools to work on thumbnails with shorts, but I'd say the title, similarly to what we're talking about with like the title thumbnails, the start of the hook, I think the title is important with a short in capturing someone from that first second. Because if you imagine, this is kind of I'm curious if it's different for you guys, but for my kind of viewing patterns when I'm on TikTok or YouTube Shorts or anything like that, I'll kind of swipe up into the next video that they're showing me. The first thing that I do is I look at the title and just am immediately kind of like, do I get it? Do I understand what's happening? Is there some sort of a story that's being set up here? Those are some of the first things that I look at in deciding, am I gonna stay or not?
That's interesting because I don't.
Interesting.
I'm
what
like,
do you do?
I do I look at this Blake's first episode and we're like totally not agreeing here.
I love this.
I love this. Yeah, I don't. I look at the title when I click in the first time. So where you get the impression and the CTR that
short?
you would get on a short for a short.
Okay.
But if I'm in the feed, I don't even I'm oblivious to the title.
Interesting. Okay.
Oblivious to it. Yeah.
Weird.
I'm curious
Okay.
where the audience is on that.
I'm really
if you're
curious
watching
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all visual for me. Like what's on the screen is gonna what pulls me in. That's what amplifies that hook a lot is the visuals for me and the audio as well too, right?
Yeah, I want to know now if the audience, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment. You're going to tell us, are you in Sam's camp or are you in Blake's and mine?
I'm worried everyone's going to be like, Sam doesn't know what he's talking about. Nobody's in Sam's camp. That's interesting.
Yeah, I do feel though, like with a short, the visual is really important also right from the beginning. And if it's more of a talking head, then you can use a lot of audio things. And it doesn't necessarily mean music, but maybe sound effects. Something that's just going to grab you right from the beginning with a short for sure. And then would you not say also on long form content and a hook, visual storytelling is way better?
Oh, yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah.
I think showing versus telling in a lot of areas on YouTube is so much more powerful.
Yeah. I mean, the same goes when it comes to movies too. You don't see us just telling us a story. Like everything's being visually shown to us because that's a lot more stimulating to the mind, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And I feel like in the movies, there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from movies because they use music so expertly, right? You don't necessarily need to see, but through the music, through the audio, and maybe sound effects, even like layering sound effects upon each other. Now I'm not channeling my inner Peter McKinnon here, and because he layers audio so expertly, but it helps you to feel the moment. And if you can get the audience to feel something, especially right off the bat, dropping them into a short or a video, then you've got them.
Music's huge for sure because I think even like try watching a horror movie or even Jaws with no sound on, completely different atmosphere, right? Than having that in there. I think one of the things one thing with creators I try to convince them sometimes. I'm like, having music in there is one thing, but if you're intentional about the moment that you're in and trying to amplify that moment with that music, it makes all the difference trying to get the point across, right? So
if you've ever seen the movie Up, you probably know the scene I'm talking about towards the beginning of the montage of like the main kind of the old guy and then his wife kind of through their life. And then you've got kind of the classic Up song with the upbeat piano. There's no talking. It's probably, I don't know, would you say maybe like a 5-minute montage?
Yeah, it's like a short,
no talking at all. The music melody stays the same, but then the music changes because it's very sad and I don't really want to talk about it because it's a sad movie. Well, that part of the movie is really sad and I cry every time. But there's so much, I mean, talking about dropping a viewer into the moment without needing to tell them this is a sad moment, like just using those things to accentuate it is so powerful.
Yeah. And I would also say too, like if for best practices, if you were really talking about shorts, and then we're going to jump right back into long form content in just a second, you want to make sure that your hook lines up with the very last second in your video, because that's really more the loopable part of it. And that there's such a sense of satisfaction when I see a good, I don't know about you guys, but a sense of satisfaction when you see a good loop. And I see on so many creators in the comments, people comment about the loops.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a thing.
Yeah, this is actually, I'm
huge.
glad you brought this up because I had a call with somebody, I was talking to a creator earlier today, and they asked a really interesting question with this note because I was talking about shorts. I said the same thing, and they asked me that they were like, so are we trying to trick viewers into watching it a second time? Is that what we're doing? And I'm actually really curious, like Ingrid, what would you say to that question?
Me?
Yeah.
I would say no. We're not trying to trick them. It's actually a payoff, right? It's a feel good, like, that was so
It's
good.
satisfying.
That kind of, that's at least for me, satisfying. That's the right word. Yeah. So it's not like we're trying to trick them. Yeah. Okay. I was watching a carpentry short. It got surfaced to me. Tim, I have to forward this to Tim because he's such the woodworker. But they put like 2 screws on the end of like a 1x1 little piece of wood block, and they had a matching one on the end, and it was like this little hack, and it was brilliant. I watched the thing 5 times. I am not kidding, and because I was like, how did they do that? And I was so thankful that it looped, satisfied, but it was so cool that it expertly matched up that, I mean, it was like massive satisfaction on my end.
Yeah.
I
totally agree.
I actually copied because it's the one thing that I wish they had on shorts is you can't like drop them into a folder. I'm drawing a blank. Save them into a playlist. Like I have private playlists for myself on things that I love. So I had to copy the link and save it somewhere else because it was such a cool idea. I was like, I need to figure this out. Yes, I love to do some woodworking too. Tim's not the only one.
Yeah, I think it's so true though. It's funny that you guys said that because that was the word I landed on too when I answered his question. I said it's a viewer satisfaction thing. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. But it was a really interesting question. No one had ever asked me that before. Like, why are we trying to loop it? Are we trying to trick them? And it's a good question. I mean, it's a very valid question. So I was curious, what you guys would say.
Yeah, some of my favorite shorts in general loop. Yeah, for sure. So.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
absolutely. And not just audio or anything like that, but the visual loop is just so satisfying. And for those of you that are listening and say, okay, that's great, guys, but I don't have like a how-to channel. So, if you're watching my short, you're watching me talk. You can very easily come in from the right side, sit down, while you're talking and delivering, and then towards the end, get up and walk out the left and perfectly loop as if you're coming right back in the short. I've seen that done before. So there's so many creative ways. Any others that you guys can think about?
Yeah, I feel like, there isn't a podcast that goes by that I don't talk about Ryan Trahan, but he, I feel like, has the best shorts. Like they're so good. And so when we're talking about even storytelling and a hook, pulling somebody into the moment and setting up a good story with a lot of the intrigue and tension and things that we're talking about, there are some that he's done a really good job with that I can think of maybe he's like at his kitchen table, kind of like setting up the story, eating his cereal, and then the story begins and we kind of go on this whole journey. And I think a really good part of a good story, which you see in a lot of movies, is at the very end, after kind of the transformational moment, usually kind of the hero of the story is back at home base or back in their like familiar territory, but something is different now. Like either they've transformed or the environment's transformed somehow. But he does a really good job of that transformation of like he's returned home, sitting back down at the dinner table, but it's nighttime now or something like that. And then it loops perfectly as he sits back down, but it's almost like the night turns to day and then it re-loops and it restarts.
Oh, so cool.
Like it's really, really well done.
Yeah, we'll have to link a couple of creators that are just experts at this in the show notes for sure. Well, that actually makes me think now of like traditional hooks in long form content. You brought up storytelling. What parts of storytelling can you actually tackle in a hook, and can you even? Oh, yeah.
You can do it quick. I would say, sometimes I don't know how recent of a podcast we've done talking about storytelling, but, 4 really easy questions that you can just answer as a hook is who's the character? What does the character want? Why can't they have what they want? Like, what are maybe some obstacles here? And then what is at stake? Like, what are the stakes? What are the stakes if they can't get what they want? And maybe that sounds kind of overwhelming or like a lot to kind of address, because you're like, you guys said, 15 seconds is even too long, but you can answer that in a sentence. I like, I know we said at the beginning, you don't have to have a Mr. Beast hook, but if you want some inspiration,
he's good at it.
For those
Ryan Trahan does it as well.
Yeah, Ryan Trahan also does them really well. But if you want some tangible examples, they answer those questions in like 5 seconds or less.
Seconds.
And you're immediately, there's the especially the obstacles tied in, add some tension. And now it's shifted where you feel like, well, I got to see, are they going to accomplish what they're setting out to do or not? There's this question now, and that just pulls viewers into the story so much easier.
Yeah, and that's great because not only does it allow you to build the story up, but like we were talking before, how the peak of the hook is the end of it, where the tension is. By you saying all that, getting to the obstacles and what's at stake, that's where like we're at the tip of that hook now. Now we're ready for the storyline, right? So we've gotten the story in there, but we've gotten a really strong hook at the same time.
Totally.
Yeah, totally agree. And I feel like too, we were talking a little bit about music earlier. There's an opportunity here in a hook to maybe have a different kind of a track. And I want you to kind of challenge yourself. So I'm challenging you, if you're listening here, to stretch outside of your comfort zone. And maybe if you usually use music, maybe use just the drum part in your hook, where you have that kind of beat and that kind of feel like something's happening. What can you do to build that intrigue in an audio way in your hook that might be different from the pace of the rest of the video? Kind of switch things up.
Yeah,
Sam, you two are the musicians here.
Well, I am now, since Blake has one hand to work with.
Not right now.
That's right.
I totally agree, though. I think music can really help build that moment. But I would even say, too, like, we're using some, I think, powerful language here, like obstacles and stakes and storytelling. And it can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just talking about cheeseburgers. Like, I don't have this epic story that I'm going to take someone on. And I think it's totally okay. Like, stakes don't have to look like this really intense, deep life or death situation kind of a thing. It can be pretty shallow level. Maybe you're about to go play a game of Pictionary, and it's like your husband won last week and your pride is on the line. You're like, I got to beat him this time because I just cannot listen to him making fun of me all week until we play again. It can be something like that maybe it's been there the whole time, but you just have to voice it and include it in your video.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. But a lot of times when I'm talking to creators, the biggest, most paralyzing part for storytelling is like, I don't see how I can find stakes or these big transformational moments from like, teaching somebody how to cook something. It's like, it doesn't have to, like, I feel like you overthink how big the story has to be because of what we see on YouTube or what we see on TV or movies. It's like, it literally can be as simple or as small as something that happened in 5 minutes of your day. Like, you tried something new, you'd never tried it before. Did it work out? Did it not work out? Transformation. For me, I went longboarding. Should I have done it? No. I've learned a lesson now, right?
Lesson learned. Yeah, I agree though. No, I think sometimes stakes are stakes. I think stakes and tension are good regardless, but sometimes the small stakes are almost more relatable for a viewer where they can hear that and be like, oh, like, I've been there before. I can totally relate to that. It kind of sucks you into the story in a different way, but it's just as powerful, I think.
Totally agree.
Whatever is holding you back from the thing you want can be as simple as, I'm trying to do laundry and my kids won't go take their naps and I can't get this done because they can't sleep. It's like, it's as simple as that, right?
Right. And then it's if they're not going to sleep, then I'm not going to sleep and I'm already exhausted.
And I'll be cranky and then I'm going to end up yelling and Okay, guys, we've been talking about the first hook, but as I mentioned earlier, there's 2 in every single video. Tell us a little bit about the second hook in your video.
I think likewise, having the first hook at the beginning, it's only natural for the second hook to be at the very end. I think I feel like we've talked about it a lot on podcasts, avoiding ending language and just, not just wrapping up the video and kind of wasting the last minute or so, last even 30 seconds. I think ideally, whatever happens in the meat of the content, kind of getting to the end of that, and then trying to be really strategic to just not say the words. And so whatever is going to follow and so is probably going to be, and so that's all for today. Thanks for, stopping by, subscribe, hit the like, that's usually what follows. And I think in the same way that our attention spans are so small with the opening hooks, I think it's the same with the end hooks too. And it just takes one or two words to just trigger that, like, video's done, bye, I'm on my way to the next one. So I know you said the magic of the word but earlier, Ingrid, and I agree. I think if you're able to tie in the word but after you've delivered the content, and then you can give us a pitch into another video, or even just whatever your call to action is going to be at the end, just be really intentional there to almost pull us into a new moment and not just kind of tack on an ending that's a bit more passive. You'll get a lot more results that way.
Yeah, I think if any, again, bringing it back to TV or movies, just any good TV show will hook you into watching the next episode. And it can be the most frustrating thing, but also the most satisfying thing, because you want more because it was that good. Mm-hmm. How can we create that same hook and then of our content to get people to watch more of our content, make it bingeable, that they have no choice. They want to know the answer to this question we posed, or this value we've offered to them that they don't know the answer to yet. That's our opportunity to say, we've delivered this. Let's ramp back up to a peak that leads you into wanting to fall over into the next piece of content we have.
I love everything that you guys just said. And Sam, you're so right, because it is really an emotional thing, I feel. And at the end, very much like what Blake was just saying, creating like that bingeable session. If you're creating discoverable content, that's the goal. The goal is to extend the watch session. The goal is to get them into another piece of content. So your hook has to establish some kind of curiosity. It has to establish a feeling of needing more. Like, what do you mean this video is like almost like shock value that the video's over and I need more. I haven't gotten that thing yet. And that's where the binge session starts. And if you're really good at this, when you're bringing them from one video to another video to another video, and then you're on their homepage the next day. But if it's community content, you can also hook somebody into feeling compelled to share their voice or make them feel some sort of belonging to the community, whether you're asking them to leave a comment or whether you're asking them to like or subscribe or whatever it is that your call to action is in that community video. And then if it's a sales video, it's about hooking them out and off of YouTube. That's the goal. It's about being very, very intentional. But I want to talk about, like, Sam, you mentioned some real tactical things that I just want to kind of point out. Zero ending language. Zero ending language. You mentioned, how was it that you said?
And so. Those two words. Yeah.
There's another one is if. If you're using the word if at the end, that is ending language. Definitely. And there's no need to wrap up your content ever. It feels wrong. It really does sometimes, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I think it's this right here is really similar to what we were talking about before with shorts and that question of, like, are we trying to trick people into watching the loop and watching it again? I think maybe that same feeling can happen at the end. Like, but if I don't wrap it up, am I just trying to trick somebody to get them to, like, binge my content? Like, doesn't that feel kind of salesy or bad? But I think ultimately, if you're maybe solving a problem for them, or you told a really good story, it's like the viewer satisfaction is really at the heart of it. And if you're reaching the right people, they're making it to the end of your video. That's all, like, very positive viewer signals that they're showing you. And so if anything, they're probably itching for an opportunity to watch more of your content. You just need to make it easy for them to do that. So I would really try to remember that too, if you're maybe feeling a little bit like, like that just doesn't feel good, to do that. Really, you're offering them a service. You're not tricking them into doing anything like that.
Yeah, I had a creator with the same kind of, like, idea or frustration in a consultation once. So she just didn't want to feel salesy. She's like, I feel kind of bad. I'm like, if you truly believe in your content, which I'm sure you do, and what the value you have is, you know that this next piece is going to be valuable for them. If you think with that conviction, like, I'm here to help people and I want to give them the right opportunity to hear what I have to say, or a product that could be really beneficial for them. If you believe in that, then you're doing your audience a service at that point.
Yeah, I feel like we may want to give people another practical example. What do you think, guys? Because I feel like this concept, and this is one that we work with creators very closely on. And I'll give you some sort of context. When we work with creators for a longer period of time, we're in their analytics on the back end. And more often than not, those end screen click-through rates, so it's called clicks per end screen element shown, is the actual metric. That number is usually a very low single digit when we start. Very low. But by the time they've mastered this, it's in the double digits. Now, I really want to kind of spell this out for you. This is a key viewer signal that YouTube is looking for, the algorithm. If you're not getting that, he's Alfred, right? We've talked about that before. That's my little name for Alfred on a bad day. Alfie when he's good. If you're saying this at the end of your video, what does it look like when you guys hear most people do their call to actions at the end of the video?
What do most call to actions look like?
Yeah.
I'd say most of the time.
What's a not so good one?
Well, most of the time, I think what's pretty normal is it's kind of the like, so if you enjoyed this video, I really think you'll like one of these or this one, check it out. And it's like, yeah, it's one call to action, which is good. You're calling somebody you're giving a call to action into another video, which is good.
Yes.
But it's still kind of like a little passive. It's not really like why should I watch it? It's not really opening a new loop, like a new idea or a new level of intrigue of like, oh, interesting, I should go watch that next one. I think, and it's hard to do that. Like, it definitely takes a lot of proactive work. But if you're able to nail it, like you said, looking in some of those analytics and seeing some of the creators that we work with, like Ingrid and I, we were just looking at one, a couple weeks ago that was in like the high 20%, like nearly 30% of people at the end of the video clicked and watched the next one, which is really good. Like, that's a really effective call to action to get somebody watching more of your content. So yeah, those are just some of my thoughts.
So if that's what you don't want to do, and by the way, Tim is an expert at this, and I will link in the show notes a few videos so that you get a really great example of how effortless this can become. You want to give them a deep why because that's going to serve a couple purposes. First, it's going to feel like the video is a continuation. But I just want to be very clear here. You want the videos to stand on their own. It's not a part one and a part two. But you're also going to align your current video with the next one on a similar topic, like a logical next step for the viewer. If I'm a cooking channel and I'm doing a video on lasagna, and then I send you to barbecuing outside, that doesn't really make sense, right? But if I'm doing lasagna and then I'm sending you to the video of the sauce that my grandmother taught me how to make, and I've been making for decades, that my family raves over, now it makes sense for me to watch that because chances are I probably used it in the video. So you want them to align, and that's language to Alfie, because today it's Alfie, right? When we start to align video, Sam's laughing. He loves it when I start naming the algorithm to two pieces of content, right? And hey, you never know, that video may end up as the next up from the algorithm serving that, or in the suggested feed. That's a powerful form of traffic. So any other tips or anything that you would have for how to actually do that call to action at the end?
I'd make it quick. I think of the same thing with the opening hook. Like, I don't think you need to rush it like crazy, but at the same time, I wouldn't give a really long, this is my grandma's recipe. You got to check out this video because back in, 1927, when she first invented it, you kind of give all of this context and it's just this long ending hook that can also hurt you. Like, I think in the same way at the beginning of this, we were kind of talking about, the percentage of people still here after the hook. If we've lost a lot of people, we've kind of lost a lot of opportunity there. I think at the same mindset, by the end, that the most amount of people who are potentially there to even see the end screen in the first place, like, let's get that end card, the last 20 seconds of our video, let's get that end card to pop up as soon as we can in our hook so that we just have the highest opportunity to get the most amount of people into the next video too.
Yeah, I think what I think you've heard us probably say this before, deliver value 5 to 10 seconds into your end screen. Like Sam was just talking about your end screen, because you have your title and thumbnail that you've expertly crafted because you worked with Blake. And he taught you that.
Because you did a discovery call with Blake.
and that is already causing tension in your mind because you're so good between the intrigue and just that. And 5 to 10 seconds into that, you're still delivering something of value. So you're not losing the viewer at this point. And then you make a very quick, and that's what Sam was saying, very quick shift into a deep why I would need to take action to click that video. And that is going to get you those double digits. And we've seen over 40% before. It's doable. And I'm talking about creators that have a lot of views on their content. But without being able to engage the viewer in an intriguing way, they're not going to take action. And if they're not taking action, what's the point? At the end of every video, we like to leave you with a power tip, something that you can use today. And guess what? YouTube has new analytics, which is always a good day for me. What you want to do is you want to go onto the back end in YouTube Studio and look at analytics and on the audience tab, and you're going to see that they are starting to experiment by testing a new card there. And what they're showing, and this is really cool. I don't know if you guys know about this, but they have a new card that's called Top Formats Watched on Other Channels. And it's going to be broken out by videos, shorts, and lives. So this completely did not exist before. This is 100% brand new. It's just, in the past, they had just channels that your audience watched, or they had videos that your audience watched. So now you get a kind of idea. Maybe you're creating all long form content, but the audience that's watching you only watches shorts mostly. That's important information. And if you're not really watching shorts, then you need to be making shorts. That's how you can use that. The goal here is to help creators make informed decisions about the formats that they publish or experiment with on their channel. It's really going to be based on audience insights. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to link a playlist right here, and that's going to actually give you a little bit more than just hooks. So working through all the viewer signals that Alfie's looking for in a good day, from title and thumbnail all the way through the clicks per end screen element shown at the end. Thanks for listening to another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you next week. Bye.